I'll at least let them know about the recordings being available and such.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, my name is Palmer Roman. I'm just going to be the facilitator. So if you have any students later on, they can go ahead and ask questions through the Q&A button, and there'll be camera off as well as microphone off. And then if they don't attend this session, they'll be able to see it recording later live on the IACAC.org. But that's it for me. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and you can go ahead and get started.
Thank you. All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Lisa DeLuca, and I represent the American Academy of Art College here in Chicago. And the presentation I'm going to be giving today is a really cool presentation that I think you will very much enjoy. I feel it's very informative about the school that I represent, but it also does a really nice job of inspiring students to really maybe see the art world differently and to understand what we at the Academy do when it comes to training our students to become professionals in the creative world. So basically, this year, I've actually incorporated a new slide into my presentation. It is actually a quote from the director of the Museum of Contemporary Art here in Chicago. And Madeline says that artists always show us the way out of a dilemma and pivot us to the future. As such, they will be the first to articulate how we live in a post-COVID world. And I think the reason why this really caught my eye and it really kind of meant a lot to me is because it's super important to share this with younger students so that you can see that being creative and being an artist is much more than just being in an art class or, you know, just creating a painting for a show. You're the future, and we need the creative thinkers to really help us out of situations like we're in right now. So it really, you know, the art world really is so much more than sometimes what people think. And as I mentioned earlier, I think this presentation will do a nice job of really helping you understand that. What I'd like to do is I'm going to pull my bullet points up here. I'm going to go ahead and start off with some objectives that I'd like for you to keep in the back of your mind as I'm presenting today. First and foremost, I'm here to talk to you about educating yourself and earning a degree, earning a BFA from the Academy. Being educated is a lot. I would never give up the time that I spent in college. It was a wonderful experience. Not only are you being educated, but you are learning about people. You are maturing while you're in college. You are learning things that you never dreamed that you could learn before. And the importance of a degree, it really just gives you a lot of opportunities to really pursue maybe what it is that you really would like to do. Skills in the art world, in my opinion, is probably number one when it comes to like setting some objectives for the future, because obviously as an artist, there's not much that you can do without having good skill. And the Academy is very serious about teaching our students the skills that they actually need to work professionally. Obviously, when we go to school and we graduate and then we go to work, the whole point is to earn an income so that we can be adults. We can take care of ourselves. We can pay bills. We can maybe go on vacations and, you know, do whatever it is that we'd like to do, hopefully. But understand that the degree and the skills are kind of like a math equation. Degree plus skills potentially could lead to better income. I will also share with you the importance of having an interesting career. And this speaks to me very personally because I've had jobs that I really wasn't so crazy about. And I've been lucky enough to work in the art world now for just over 20 years. And I can tell you that when you have a career that you are interested in, when you have a career that brings you happiness and fulfillment, it is like no other. When you have a job that you don't like, you will understand the difference between liking your job and not liking your job. It's kind of like night and day. So I really want you to think about what interests you. If art is something that you really enjoy doing, please don't be quick to just write it off as a hobby or a class that you took in high school. And think about how you can take it to the next level. And that's a lot of what we're going to be sharing today in the presentation. Now, when I talk about art, I do want to be clear that art is not just something that you see in a museum. I love museums. They're one of my favorite places to go. But art is not just restricted to a painting in a museum or a sculpture in a gallery. We have to understand that art is actually everywhere. It's everywhere you look. And one of the best things that I have done basically is taken it upon myself to really capture different examples of how we see art everywhere. Because when you think of a handful of M&Ms or you think of maybe some of the candy you're going to get, maybe if you go trick-or-treating this year, and you think about the clothes you're wearing and the chair that you're sitting on, you probably don't always connect it to the art world. But pretty much everything that you look at, things that you interact with, from games and toys to apps, websites, magazine covers, murals that you may see in the streets of your neighborhood, these are all examples of art. So have an open mind when you're thinking about pursuing the art world, because there's probably a lot more careers out there than maybe you originally even knew. Now, the American Academy of Art College is actually right here in Chicago. We are situated in the South Loop. That is our building. This is a little different from maybe some campuses that you may have visited because it's a very urban campus. So basically, we are right at Michigan and Van Buren. We occupy 2 floors in this mid-rise. Now, we got to think about location here, because when you're thinking about attending school in a city like Chicago, there's a lot of great resources. You've got the Art Institute right across the street. The MCA is just south of us north of us on Michigan Avenue. Just south of us is the Museum of Contemporary Photo, one of my favorite places. And it is very common for our teachers to take our students to all different places throughout the city to find inspiration and to create these outdoor studio experiences. So we have painting and drawing students that will go out and hang out in the parks. We have lots of great photography opportunities. In Chicago, we are known for our landscapes and our architecture. Also, don't just think a museum has to be an art museum to be a good resource for you as an art student. The Field Museum, we definitely take students over there because then they're able to draw the artifacts that they see on display. They've drawn Sue, the big old dinosaur lady that hangs out in front of the museum. So there's definitely some tremendous resources available to you in a large metropolitan city like Chicago. Now, post-COVID, we probably had about 15 to 20 students in a class. Obviously now, we have to follow guidelines and the classes are a little smaller, but the Academy is a small environment. It is a place where everyone, for the most part, pretty much knows each other. Students definitely know their teachers, and teachers definitely know their students. So it's a very intimate art environment. What else is cool about the Academy is when you go to an art school, everyone that you're in school with is a fellow artist. They're all art majors. So there's nothing against, a liberal art university. There's some awesome opportunities out there for those schools too. But, you will be going to school with all kinds of different folks. But here, when you go to an art school, you're really hanging out with people who share a lot of the same interests as you do. Now, the Academy offers something called a BFA, which I mentioned very briefly in the beginning. It's a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. We offer commercial art programs, so there's illustration, graphic design, 3D modeling and animation, art direction, and photography. We also have a fine art program. We're very well known for our painting program, where you can pursue either oil or watercolor. And what I'd like to do at this point is kind of break these down for you so that you can see some examples, not all, but some examples of some of the careers that you can pursue within these given programs. So when we're talking about illustration, we are talking about creating a visual narrative. A great example of illustration would be children's book illustration, because obviously the artwork is used to support the wording, the story that's actually in the storybook itself. The Academy offers both digital and traditional illustration. Graphic design. So graphic design is kind of like this marriage of typography and image. And when we're talking about graphic design, we're talking about corporate images, we're talking about brand identity. Our students are very much taught to execute a project with deadlines. So all of the curriculum that we create at the Academy is not just created for college, it's not just college curriculum, it's also created with the whole idea of the real world in mind. Like, what does someone really have to know as a graphic designer in the corporate world? 3D modeling and animation, great program to think about pursuing. More and more things are virtual and animated these days. What's cool about 3D modeling is it incorporates some of your traditional skills like drawing and sculpture. So we have a really, really strong sculpture elective at the Academy. And then combining that with your software programs, such as Maya, ZBrush, Photoshop, After Effects. So 3D modeling really gives you an awesome opportunity to build a beautiful demo reel of what you've created, very much focusing on texture and light. Lighting is huge. You have to definitely make sure that you understand how to work with lighting, as this artist, Brandon Kennedy, certainly does. Art direction. So what I always tell my students is that if you like art and you're creative, but you also really like people, or you find that you have good people skills, you have managerial skills, this could definitely be something for you to think about pursuing, because art directors basically oversee campaigns and they work with several other individuals many times. I know it could just be a couple of people, but many times they'll work in a group. And this art example that I have up here, this lovely little design, that was actually done by 2 of our students at the Academy. So basically they worked together in creating a whole campaign to execute this exhibition at the museum. Now this didn't really happen. Photoshop, you know, creates some wonderful opportunities for us. So it looks like it happened, but it actually didn't. When we're talking about art direction, we are talking about leadership, we're talking about collaboration. And when you create an art direction portfolio, a lot of different examples in there. You're going to be showing your typography skills, storyboarding skills, illustration, and even photography skills. So it's definitely something to think about if you really like dabbling and working in various types of art and design. Now, photo at the Academy is both darkroom, so it's traditional, it's analog photography and digital. And what I'd like to throw in about that is that, you know, some schools don't really do darkroom anymore, they're just strictly digital. So we are one of the only schools that still is practicing the old school approach to photography. When you're thinking about photography, there's a lot of different fields that you can pursue. You can be a freelance photographer or a commercial photographer. You can pursue areas in portraiture, architectural photography, fashion photography, photojournalism. There's a lot of different options out there. And one of the great things, as I had mentioned earlier, is the Academy does a nice job of really trying to create this realistic environment. So we do give students the opportunity to leave the classroom and photograph out in the real world to build a more realistic portfolio. Now, painting, as I mentioned earlier, it's a really strong program at the school. And what I also want you to know is sometimes when people pursue a fine art degree at the undergraduate level, they will then pursue what you call an MFA. So it's a Master of Fine Arts. And what that allows you to do is teach. So there's many times that people will ask, well, you know, what else can you do with painting? Like, what other opportunities are out there? And teaching is always a great, in my opinion, just a great opportunity to fall back on. However, as you see here, there are a lot of other areas that you can pursue as well. And it is important to know that just because you have a fine art degree does not lock you in a fine art job. I know a lot of people that went to school for fine art, but they have great computer skill, so they actually do a lot of commercial art-based projects, which I will share with you when we get to our spotlights in just a moment. And moving right along, I do want to speak to you about something called foundations. So when students come to the Academy, everyone will take a class called Fundamentals of Art and a class called Life Drawing. Fundamentals of Art is going to teach you the ABCs of art. So everything from color theory to value to perspective. Life Drawing is going to teach you how to draw from live models, how to draw from still lifes, drawing from life, essentially. Some of our students will take this for 1 semester, others will take it for a full year. But basically, it's a great foundation for the rest of the program that you'll be pursuing in sophomore, junior, and senior year. So that's why we call it the Foundations Program. It's kind of like building a house. If you want a good house and it doesn't have a good foundation, you don't have a good house. So you definitely want to think about how that, how those classes actually pertain to your future as an artist. Okay, so I had mentioned earlier that we were going to, I believe I mentioned earlier I was going to speak of some spotlights. This is what a spotlight is. What I do is I actually show you someone who went to the Academy, and then we talk a little bit about what they're doing now. So what type of job they have, because I know that is something that a lot of students are interested in knowing. So I start with Rojo Garcia. So Rojo traditionally has a lot of fine art skill. So this is a great example of what I was just speaking of. These are paintings, these are done by hand. He's working with various types of paint, including spray paint And he also utilizes a lot of stencils. So you'll see those patterns come up in a lot of his works. In addition to being a fine artist, he also has design skill. These are logos that he's created. So as a freelance artist, this is just giving him more opportunity to make money and to build his career. Now, I also want you to know that Rojo is a teacher. So this is what I was speaking of earlier. He has actually done some work at the Expo Collective, which is an arts organization here in Chicago. And he also works with After School Matters, which is another art program, very well-known art program here in the city. Those are a few of his students. Here we see some of Rojo's murals. So Rojo's murals can be found indoor and outdoor. So we have a lot of schools that have his work, but then a lot of great neighborhoods will boast of his beautiful work as well on the sides of buildings and things like that. Oscar Joyo is another spotlight. When he was at the Academy, he was into drawing and painting. So I start off here with Oscar's sketchbook art. Notice that that is animated. That is very cool. He actually scanned some of the pages from his sketchbook and then animated some of the details in Photoshop. So it kind of shows you how you can create digital sketchbook art that has animation features that really helps you stand out when you're showing your sketchbook art, you know, potentially to an employer or, you know, whatever the situation may be. So these sketchbooks are created with anything from ink to pastel to paint, charcoal. I mean, they're all mixed media pieces. But what I find very interesting about them is the color. And as I mentioned earlier, the animation. They certainly catch your eye, that's for sure. Now, excuse me, Oscar actually just had a show. And his show was actually at the Line Dot Gallery. And these are some examples from his work in this exhibition that was actually a tribute to Africa, which is where the artist was actually born. Many of these are actually acrylic on wood, and then there's a resin layer over them, so they're very shiny and reflective. What's very cool also about Oscar's work is that there is an app that you can install on your phone. It's actually called Artivive. And when you take your phone and you open that app up, if you're in a gallery that has Oscar's work on the wall, you can hold your phone right up to the actual piece of art and it will animate and do just what you've seen here on my screen on your phone. So it's a new way now for viewers to actually interact with the art that they're seeing in these various gallery spaces. And here we have some of Oscar's mural work. Very beautiful. All right, and moving forward, we will now speak of Joe Renda, another one of my favorite artists. Joe also pursued painting when he was at our school. This painting is about 5 feet across, so it's huge. It's oil and spray paint on a sheet of aluminum. So this is showing us how artists don't always just paint on a canvas. As I mentioned earlier with Oscar, you know, he paints on wood. So there's a lot of different surfaces that you can experiment with. This is actually a box, believe it or not. So what he did is he actually painted on the front surface of the box. He drilled a hole so you can see inside the box. And then this was all created by the artist. These are all like wooden little cutouts. And what's really cool about this installation is it's actually illuminated. So the artist drilled a hole in the bottom of the box and placed a light bulb in there. And then when they are on, when they're plugged into the wall in the gallery space, light actually comes through the facial cavity. Now, Joe's work has a lot to do with nature. One of his more recent shows is called Biophilia. It was at the Vertical Gallery. So he likes to kind of do this really cool, kind of like a surreal attempt of combining our details with nature details, as you can see here. So your two subjects, their heads are actually like a grouping of leaves. Biophilia deals a lot with the environment and how we as humans interact with our environment and how we need to protect our natural environment and how crucial these relationships that we have with our environment are. Joe also does very cool murals. This is a mural over in the Niles area. This is at a brewery. And then this is actually a really cool mural that Joe did. This is going back a few months now, but this is actually called Growth for a Better Day. And it's a mural that's over like off of Taylor Street in Chicago. And it actually was part of the Murals for Medical Relief. So this happened right when the pandemic, you know, first had kind of gone down. And you can see this mask here that he's integrated into the floral arrangement. Artists who participated in this actually was a way to raise money for medical districts during the pandemic. So again, we see how artists get involved with their community. Now, I also want to show you, I spoke earlier about the foundations program. So when Joe was a freshman in high school, this is a portrait he created. Joe took a whole lot of art in high school because I knew Joe when he was in high school, and he took as much art as he could when he was in school. And then when he got to my school, when he got to the academy, that's the level he was drawing at. So what you're really seeing here is kind of the difference between your first year in high school and then pretty much like your end year in high school. However, this next drawing that you're about to see was done by Joe in the latter part of the semester. So Joe came in drawing at this level in September and then got himself to this point in December. So you see how at the academy, in just a matter of a few short months, our students really increased their drawing level. The reason why I really want to emphasize this is because I will honestly tell you that a lot of students are very intimidated by drawing, and I get it. Not everybody likes to draw or draws well or even has had a lot of experience with drawing. But the academy is like definitely a place you'd want to be if you want to learn some drawing skills. And I will tell you, drawing skills take you a long way. They can definitely help you pretty much in any of the majors that we offer, and I'm sure many other programs as well. So we don't want you to be intimidated. We want you to know that the school is small enough that we can definitely work with various levels of students that come in. Now, we have to show Alex Ross in our presentation because he's actually one of our most famous alum. Alex Ross studied illustration at the academy. So here we see some examples from Marvelocity. This is actually a publication that came out maybe about 2 years back. So these are some of his Marvel superheroes. And then here we see more examples of his work where you see other types of superheroes like Superman and Wonder Woman and Batman. So Marvel and DC Comics are the two types of comics that he has had the most experience with. Even though Alex is mostly known for his comic book art, he really does so much more than just that. He's done a lot of work for the movie industry. So he's done work for movies like Glass and Unbreakable, Aquaman, just to name a few. So he's definitely out there. You know, a lot of people recognize his work in Hollywood, for example. The other thing about Alex is that he loves music. So you see how he will create these really cool images that are based on like the Monkees or the Beatles or David Bowie or whoever, you know, they may be. But what a lot of illustrators do is they actually bring their personal interests into the work that they're actually creating. Now, what I want to mention about Alex is that all of the work that Alex has done is all done by hand. So this is actually done with gouache paint, which is similar to watercolor, and ink. So nothing is digital. So, you know, we have a lot of digital artists in our presentation today. He is not one of them. Everything is all done by hand. And you should probably know that ever since Alex has been a little dude, he's been into art. So that's maybe 5 or 6. This is grade school, like elementary school. This is high school. And I will honestly tell you, I'm not sure when he created these. These are little action figures that he made out of construction paper, which I think is very cool. I mean, who knew when he was making these that someday he actually would have a line of licensed action figures based on the illustrations he's created. One thing I really want to emphasize about Alex is that I spoke to you guys earlier about the importance of having an interesting career and really loving what you do. Alex says that it's very common for him to sometimes work like 12 to 15-hour days when he's trying to meet deadline. But for him, that time goes by very quickly because he enjoys what he does. So you want to think about that. You know, in school right now, when school was in session, you know, you had classes that you didn't like and they just dragged and dragged, right? But when we have classes that we actually love, we find the bell rings sooner than we know it. So that's very similar to when you're working someday as well. All right, we're moving right along to Brian Ewing. Brian actually is a freelance illustrator. Note some of his very cool skateboard designs. What I really like about Brian's Spotlight is that it shows us all about merchandising. So we see how his artwork is used on actual things that people can buy. He also does a lot of work with these pop posters. These are posters that are created for the music venues. So he's worked with various indie bands. He's worked with some pretty big names like Metallica. He's worked with Guitar Hero. So his work, he's got definitely a following, that's for sure. I will tell you, if there's any website you want to check out today from my presentation, you should go to brianewing.com because things like this will come up. So this is a poster that you can purchase, and this is the glow-in-the-dark version. So basically it starts off with what you'd see in normal daylight, and then the cool part that animates in is what you would see in the dark. So he does a lot of really cool effects like that with his posters. And what I'm showing you right now is a little bit of the behind the scenes of how he created the Joker poster. I'm actually going to show you a link on YouTube about this. So this is a lot with collage. You want to take a really close look into what he's doing here. He's actually bringing in some actual words, some type, imagery, photographs, and he's putting them all together to create this promotional poster for the movie The Joker. What I'll do at this point is show you something from YouTube. And it's actually a really cool video he put together showing his process. So as I had mentioned, brianewing.com, definitely a place that you would like to visit. It gives you a great opportunity to see how the artist markets himself and the promotional materials that he actually creates to make a living. Okay, so what I'd like to do at this point is show you one of our student portfolios. So thus far, I have shown you people who went to the academy and are actually working in their given fields, making a living as an artist. But I do want to take a moment to actually show you a student portfolio. This is Brandy. She just graduated from the academy, and what I'm about to show you is actually a part of her professional portfolio at our school. So when students graduate from the academy, they will create not only a portfolio, but also a resume. And there's various other components that go into their exit interview, and it is a mandatory part of being a student at our school. So what I really like about this is we're not just teaching you skills and then saying good luck, sending you on your merry way and hoping that you do well. We also really stick with our students and guide them through the process of creating their identity, creating a strong portfolio, a unique portfolio, creating a good resume, and then going out there and actually finding jobs. So career services is actually a department that assists with this, and they will also help our students find jobs. And it is a service that our students can actually use for their lifetime. So you can always come back to the academy and career services will assist you with job placement. So I want to take a moment to show you some of these pieces from Brandy's portfolio. Those ladies that you just saw there, they came up kind of quickly, I apologize. That is actually Shirley Manson from a punk band called Garbage. Some of you might be familiar, some of you may not. But these are all Shirley, just based off of different albums that have come out. So you see how she's got different costumes, she's got different looks. You know, this is something that really appealed to Brandy, and that's why she wanted to create a whole series of digital illustrations based on such characters. Shirley Manson also saw these on social media and actually endorsed some of the products that have been created based on her representation. So that's really cool for Bridget. We also have these very cool tattoos here called Sorry Mom tattoos, kind of funny. But basically what the artist has done is created a flash sheet based on baby doll heads that are meant to be kind of cute, but also kind of disturbing and a little alarming too. So that's what she's trying to accomplish here. She's creating artwork that really stops you and makes you look at her work and kind of wonder what's happening. So this is a great example of digital art. We see various software programs being used here like Photoshop. And I really enjoy seeing her work because it's colorful and it's fun. And I think it does a nice job of actually showing us something about Brandy as a personal artist. And this is actually a cool little video that she did of herself. It's a self-portrait. And she created it, you know, just for the whole fun side of it, but also it's kind of showing other sides of her too, because she feels a lot of times when people create self-portraits, they're all like showing just the positive, happy side of someone. And this is kind of showing that she's got other sides to her as well. That really kind of digs a little deeper into her personality and the type of person that she is. Okay, so what I'd like to do in closing is I'm going to go through some benefits of pursuing a school like the Academy and the benefits of being a part of the art world. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull them all up at once, and then I'll go through them. So when we talk about career direction, guys, I really want you to think about when you go to college, if this is going to be your next step, the type of direction you're going to receive at that institution. So as I had mentioned earlier, the Academy has a career services program that I think does a really nice job of really helping our students get on track and find focus. Throughout our students' time at the Academy, as an incoming freshman, starting there, students, as I mentioned, are learning technical skill, but then they grow as an artist and they find the direction that really is meant for them as they are pursuing the program. So it's all part of a path. So I will say that career direction is probably something you really want to focus on when you are choosing a post-secondary institution. When we're talking about recognition, I'm going to say that's probably one of the biggest benefits of working as an artist. So the people I've just shown you, these are people who gain recognition for their efforts. So their work isn't just being shown tonight in this presentation with you and I. A lot of these artists are being shown nationwide. Some of our artists, like Alex Ross, are actually internationally known for what they create. So if you enjoy seeing your work displayed in a art show in school, now it's probably going to be more of a virtual show, right? Or think about when you were little and like your parents put your artwork up on the fridge and you were like super excited about that. You know, that's kind of what we're talking about here. We're talking about getting the recognition you deserve for the work that you put into these pieces of art. Job security, what I will say about that is my personal opinion is that the more education you have, the more skills you have, the better a chance you have of obtaining security, because you have other things to fall back on, right? So it is important to always have as much skill as possible, and I'm talking computer skill too, because you might find yourself, you know, maybe having to juggle a few different jobs as an artist. Maybe a few of them are art related. Maybe one is just something that you kind of do just to make a little extra money. So don't just tie yourself into art. Think about how other skills can also benefit you, not just by helping you make an income, but that actually does many times tie into your art as well. Anything that you learn can be brought into the art world. And then lastly, you probably heard me mention freelance a few times. And I'm not sure if I really clarified what that was, and I assume you may already know what that is, but a freelance artist is someone who typically works from home. So many times artists will have a studio in a spare bedroom, in a basement, sometimes in the garage. It really just depends. If artists make good money and they can afford to actually lease studio space, they'll do that too. And a lot of artists have some really cool studios in these like art co-ops in Chicago, where artists will have individual spaces. Sometimes they'll share spaces with others, and then they all get together and they have these art walks monthly. That's, again, tying back to recognition. But getting off the track, getting back to what freelance artists are, they are people who have a tremendous amount of independence because they are able to work for themselves. So a lot of artists are working freelance and working for a client and being able to pretty much design their own day and kind of, you know, do their own thing. But remember, if you have a client, of course, you know, you definitely have to listen to what they have to say as well. But there are a lot of people that have more independent personalities. So this is how your personality can kind of tie into your career as well. If anyone wants to, I know if you are watching this as a recording, it's very easy just to jot this down. If you are not, you can certainly just grab your phone if you have your phone with you and, you know, take a little shot at this. This is my contact information. So my cell as well as my email, I can be reached at either. Please feel free to reach out anytime. We will be reaching out as well to any of our students who watch this recording or are here with me this evening or send in questions. We will follow up back with you as well, but I did want to give you the opportunity to reach out to me if you'd like. And also, this is our website. So I only had so much time, you know, to show you just parts of my presentation, but there is much more art to be found and much more information to be found about our curriculum and our programs and our admissions process on our website, which is www.iaart.edu. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, because it appears that we just have a few moments left, I am going to show you, maybe, what just happened to my screen? Oh, here we go. I'm going to show you guys a 3D portfolio. And I'll just run this for a couple of moments and then I'll stop it. But I did want you to see what a demo reel looks like, because when I was speaking of 3D modeling and animation, I did mention what I mentioned a demo reel, and I'd like for you to see what that actually is. So we'll just run this briefly and then we'll stop.
Hey Lisa, I don't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt you, but I'm not able to see the demo. I can only see your presentation.
Oh, okay, hold on, thank you. I'm still sharing. Can you see my desktop?
I only see your PowerPoint presentation.
All right, well, I'm just gonna get out of that. Hold on one second. I'm gonna get out of the presentation and see if that changes anything. That's weird. It says that I am screen sharing. Okay, should I just do share screen again? Okay. Share. Now can you see my desktop?
I can see your desktop, but I don't see any animation.
Okay, I'm gonna pull it up now. Can you see it now?
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, guys. Right. I think we did that just right on time. So hopefully you guys saw basically what I was speaking of earlier about lighting and reflection and texture, and you saw some of the software programs that she mentioned. So that brings us right to 7:15. Thank you so much for joining us or watching this recording.
I have a few closing remarks, so I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Sure.
All right, so Lisa, that was a great presentation. Everyone else, thank you for joining us. When you close this window there'll be a quick link, a 4-question survey. We'd appreciate any feedback you can provide. Also, this was just one of many sessions being hosted, so be sure to sign up for any additional sessions at iacac.org. And then in about a week, you'll be able to find the session recording as well as any other session recordings at the IACAC.org. But thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. All right, not too bad, right? So did anyone ever show up?
It looks like we had one attendee, yes.
Well, that's good. At least we got somebody. And then maybe other people will watch it as a recording and then we'll get their information too. So, all right. Well, thank you very much for helping me. Hopefully next time we'll get a few more peeps, but you know, I know how it goes.
Of course. That was great though.
Thank you. I'm glad you liked it. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.